Good morning and welcome to Worldwide Wisdom. Today, we're going to learn about meditation in Jewish thought and in Chassidic culture specifically. This is something which we don't hear about. We do hear about a lot, but we don't get many directives. I, for one, can tell you that I wasn't taught how to meditate. It wasn't something that we were taught necessarily by our teachers, and there's different reasons why I believe that was. But there was an amazing mashpia, an amazing mentor in the Chabad yeshivas, in yeshivas Tomchei Tzmimim, in the yeshiva in Kfar Chabad. His name was Reb Shlomo Chaim Kesselman. He probably passed away about 40 years ago, but he was known as the mentor who would teach his students how to meditate. Specifically, he formulated 5 different kinds of meditation that he would actually assign to each of his students. Can you imagine the kind of connection, the spiritual bond between mentor and mentee, between between rabbi and congregant, between student in the yeshiva and teacher of Chassidus, when they wouldn't just learn the Chassidus together as a group or in partnership in Chavrusa style, but that the mentor, the teacher, the mashpia would actually engage with each of his students and assign to them their individual path in meditation. Actually, when I was in Yeshiva in Kfar Chabad, I had one of my mentors was a student of his. So I was hoping that his student would convey to me a path in meditation. Now he tried, but I don't believe that I don't think he succeeded, and maybe I wasn't ready. Right? When the student is ready, then the proper teacher appears. I believe that's what happens. And what I want to do is now I would like to open the veil on the teachings of Reb Shlomo Chaim Kesselman to be able to articulate and explain the powerful and tremendous importance. Well, we've already spoke. Well, we're going to talk about the importance of meditation in a moment. We're in the middle of a discourse, but also the tremendous, the tools of how to do it. The tools of how to do it. That's really not that complicated. It's not that difficult. We're learning about meditation within the context of the discourse that we're learning. It's Mayim Rabim. Mayim Rabim means tumultuous waters, great waters. It's a quote from King Solomon's Song of Songs, which refers to a verse in King Solomon that says, Mayim Rabim le'yichlu lechabes es ha'avo and haris le'ishtafua, that tumultuous waters will not be able to extinguish the love, and rivers, torrential rivers, will not be able to wash it away. It's referring to the struggles to make a living, the crisis of making money that is all-consuming, to the point that you feel suffocated, to the point that you can feel like you're drowning. King Solomon is telling us, as the Alter Rebbe teaches us this verse in the discourse of 1807 that we're learning here, he teaches us that what King Solomon is telling us is that they might threaten to drown you, but they will not kill you. In other words, the purpose of the tumultuous waters, God sends us financial anxieties and struggles only in order, not only will we not wipe out the soul's inherent connection to God, the soul's natural love to God, but in fact, we will fan the flames of that love, of that connection to God. And he connects it to the flood of Noah. That just like in the flood of Noah, if God wanted to destroy the world, he could have done so through a surgical strike. He could have done some sort of a sinkhole, a nice clean sweep, killed all the bad guys, and all the good guys would have remained, and we would have been done. Instead, he had this whole messy flood, because the purpose of the flood was not to destroy as much as it was to purify. It was a mikvah. The purpose of the flood was actually, just like the physical Noah was lifted up much higher above the waves, so too the troubles, the tumultuous anxieties of our lives are there in order to lift us up instead of just threatening to destroy us. How? What we're up to in the discourse now is, how does that work? How is it? Maybe we can understand, fine. So let's say the financial anxieties like the flood are not there to destroy us as much as they're there in order to In other words, you won't die like Noah survived. Okay. So Noah survived the flood. You too will survive your financial anxieties.
Makes you stronger.
You're still here. I mean, think about it. You're still here. We are all still here, right? Fine. But how does it make sense that the financial anxieties are going to make us stronger? They're going to pick us up. It's going to aid my divine service, my connection to God. How's that even possible? Here, the Alter Rebbe tells us, we're on page 163, we're in Lech Lecha. For those that are watching online, we're in Chayenu Lech Lecha. We're on a series here. On page 163, the Alter Rebbe answers this question by saying that the reason that the flood will not drown you, but rather lift you up, the reason why the financial anxieties will actually cause you to soar is because of meditation. Because your financial anxieties will force you to meditate upon your anxieties and to thus neutralize them in your mind. What's going to happen is you're going to be forced to think about the core, the source, the origin of your anxiety. You're going to think about your credit card bill, think about your medical bill, you'll think about your tuition bill, you'll think about your kosher grocery bill, your medical bills. You'll say, you know what, at the end of the day, this is all coming from Hashem. And you'll remember, you'll reflect on the doctrine of divine, of perpetual creation. You'll reflect on, for one, that's just one kind of meditation. It's one specific meditation. You'll reflect on the fact that God is creating the world at every single moment in time, and you'll think about the medical bill, and you'll think about the medical office, and you'll think about the doctor and the nurse. It's like the guy comes to the doctor and he says, "Doctor, I don't know what to do. I'm losing my memory." So he says, like, I can't remember anything. What do you think I should do? So the doctor says, pay me first.
Sounds like you.
You know, when you reflect on what more than meets the eye, you look at beyond the iceberg. More than meets the eye, you reflect deeper. And you realize the divine origin within everything. It's then that you realize that you're not alone. Hashem is with you. This is part of your assignment. It's not just your problem, it's your assignment, it's your mission. You're meant to be in this space, you're meant to be in this challenge. This is what you're supposed to overcome. And that gives you not only the courage to overcome, but it actually allows you to neutralize the problem and to use it to surf over the waves. Now, what I'd like to do at this point is just take a quick look at this inside the text on page 163. For when one spends all day involved in physical matters, burdened with earning a living amidst the world's darkness, they can then reflect during prayer on what they've seen, remembering that no blade of grass grows below that does not have a spiritual source above. The same is true of every single thing in existence. The mazalis are the angels, are the celestial influences that provide life to this entire world, as it is written, from the precious yields of the sun and from the precious produce. The mazalis, these are the different kinds of angels, in turn received from the 70 ministers. They receive from the dregs of the Ophanim, receive from the angels, and so on, higher and higher above high. We learned this last week. I'm just reviewing. These are the various, it's the process of evolution. You realize that it's not just that you have a problem, you have a person that's making you miserable, that your boss or your employee or your client or your account is making you troubles. Everything that exists in this world has an angel above that guides it, like a marionette doll. And we still have freedom of choice. That's a different meditation, a different Chassidic discourse. But what happens is that you reflect on the process of evolution and you realize that everything is drawing its divine energy, its energy from God, direct. Go down to the bottom of the page. One further reflects that this entire system, this grand hierarchy of spiritual forces that ascends through countless ranks, all come into being from absolute nothingness by virtue of God's attribute of kingship. As it is written, your kingship is kingship over all the worlds. Skip a few lines. He was, he will be without change. As we say in our prayers, you are he before the world was created, and you are the very same after the world was created. Now, how are you supposed to meditate upon this? I'm just moving a point. Okay. How are you supposed to meditate upon this? So we spoke last time we learned about this, about the first 2 of 5 levels of meditation. Again, this is how it's taught by Rabbi Chaim Kesselman. The first level of meditation is mental review. That's it.
Mental what?
Mental review. You'd be surprised at how rare this is. Okay? It sounds like something you should be doing all the time, right? Let's say you read a nice article, right? Let's say you read something inspirational. Do you replay that in your mind? I mean,
tough.
it's actually tough because we live in the age of insane distraction. You just move on to the next thing. We're just like, it's interesting. When I dive in here, when I dive in the morning, I get into fortress mentality. I put on a fortress. I get into my talus, and I am in a private audience with God Almighty. Now, people come over to me and they try to shake my hand or chat with me or have conversations or ask me about the plumbing in the toilets and ask me, I don't know, about different things. Yeah, they'll come over there and ask me what we're learning today, and I'm like, I'm like,
don't drain my cup. It's my
yeah, because I've got to remain in that fortress. Because if you don't get into the fortress, what's going to happen is you're going to be a slave to whomever decides to enter your mind at this moment in time. I mean, you think about it. Your phone, are you a slave to your phone, or is your phone a slave to you? At this moment in time, any human being on planet Earth is able to call me right now. The question is, am I going to answer the call? Right? I mean, I'm in the middle of a class right now. I'm teaching a class, for heaven's sake. I'm going to say, a phone number coming in from Nigeria. Maybe I should take the call. Why would I do that? It's ridiculous. Even if he's offering me $50 million, right? Right? I got one from Dubai the other day. Somebody offered me $50 million. They were ready to make the transfer. All they needed was my private banking information and my social security number. So there's actually a beautiful story. There's a beautiful story about a chassid who, I think it was a chassid of the Baal Shem Tov, who came to the Baal Shem Tov and he said, I don't understand how I can control my thoughts. I don't understand how it's possible for me to control my thoughts. This is level 1 meditation. I'm thinking about something else. So he said, if you want to control your thoughts, you got to go speak to my chassid Rebberel. Rebberel from Mezrich, the successor of the Alter Rebbe, of the Baal Shem Tov, was the Maggid of Mezrich. That time he was a poor school teacher in Mezrich. Story goes that he travels to Mezrich, and he arrives there late at night. There's a raging blizzard. It's freezing cold. And as he arrives, he's relieved. It's well after midnight, but he's relieved to see that the light is still on behind the window, so he can see that the guy is learning. Is learning late at night by the light of a candle. So he pounds on the window. Nothing. It's sleet, snow, hail, and blizzard outside. Nothing. Pounds on the window. The guy's like 3 feet away from him. No answer. Just learning like nothing happened. Eventually he gives up. He sits out the door. He's freezing cold for like an hour. Till eventually the guy opens the door. He's like, what are you doing here? He says, what do you mean? I was banging on the door. It's impossible. You didn't hear me. So the host says, I am the master of my home. Those whom I wish to provide access for, I do. And those whom I wish to deny access to, I don't. And as he said this, the traveler understood that he had received the answer to his question.
How do you reconcile that with Abraham?
Let me explain. I am the master of my home. This is my house. I do not let anybody that happens to send me a text message right now enter my home. Right? I mean, there's this new technology right now, which is like spam texting. Hi, I'm doing car washes in your area today. Would you happen to like a car wash? I'm fixing roofs. I'm tearing down houses in your area. Would you like me to, it's crazy. I mean, the amount of spam text messages, it's like insane what's going on right now, right? It's insane. I mean, the amount of people that were trying to give me a loan the other day, they called me like 12,000 times to tell me that I'm almost approved. One final step. Just because the spammers are calling you, it doesn't mean you have to let them in. I am the master of my castle, of my household. And what goes on in this head is precious real estate. You do not have to allow any shmendrik into your brain. That's why I do not have a television in my house. Because I don't want to be a slave to whatever information happens to be deemed PG by people that have very low morals. Right? It's just not appropriate for me to want to allow that into my house. If you're going to meditate, you're going to have to make a decision that you're turning your phone off and you're letting the people around you know that I'm not available. Right? What was your question, Andy?
How do you reconcile that with Abraham Avinu having a conversation with God? He sees strangers coming and he says, excuse me, God, I got to go. Pardon the interruption.
Got to go.
I'm going to go.
I got to take this call. So Abraham is chatting with God. And when the angels come, the guests come, he thought, he didn't realize they were angels. He puts God on hold. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
So you see?
You're like, do you mind, can I put you on hold? I mean, look, that's an interesting one,
That's true.
right? It's an interesting observation.
Do as I said, don't do as I do.
I would imagine that Abraham understood that God cherished kindness.
So why didn't he?
In other words, if I'm talking to my wife, let's say, right, and my son calls, I think my wife would want me to take the call. Do you know what I mean? In the same way, he was talking to God, and God's children called. Right? I would think that would be important, but that was the decision that Abraham made. It wasn't like, "Yo, Abraham, we need to eat something." He was his decision, not the other way around. And we've got to walk around with fortress mentality. And I want to tell you, I want to encourage you to become conscious of the creases in people's forehead. To become conscious of the creases in people's foreheads. Because the creases in people's foreheads tell you how much time they spend in concentrated thought. It's interesting. It's an interesting observation. When you look at the creases on people's foreheads, some have much, much more than others. And if you look at that, you'll realize how many minds are just blank.
There's a lot of blank minds around. Well, you can't really judge in Florida because with the Botox.
Fine. Use your own conclusion. Use your own conclusion. Don't embarrass anybody. So I want to encourage you to ask yourself, how many minutes a day am I spending in focused thought? So the first level of meditation is mental review. You heard a nice sermon, you learned a nice sikha, a nice class, you had a great conversation, you learned something.
You learn from reflection.
You learn from reflection. You just replay. That's all it is. It's that simple, folks. Level 1 meditation of 5 is mere replay. And I want to encourage you right now to start with that level right now. Start with replay, because we don't really do that all that much. We tend to be verbal thinkers, that we like to speak through talking. So we like to think by repeating. So if you're able to talk about it, that's how you replay it. But if you actually make space for yourself and you turn your phone off and you get into the fortress mentality, then you actually can enter into a state where you can replay a parak of Tanya, a chapter of Tanya. You could do this. You can actually own a chapter of Tanya. You can take ownership of it instead of remaining for the entirety, for the rest of your life as a consumer. It says there by Aaron in the menorah, by Aaron the high priest, it says, when you lift up the candles, which is a funny, it's an incorrect concord. It's like not the right verb to describe lighting candles. When you lift up, when you elevate the candles, it should be we kindle the candles. That's what it should say, kindle, right? Lehadlik. No, it shouldn't say lehalot, to pick up the candles. And Rashi explains that the purpose, the directive given to Aaron was that he was supposed to make the candles light to the point that they light by themselves. Many candles will only light as long as you hold the match to them. But the minute you pull away the match, it's going to go out. If you do 3 seconds, and then you pull away, it's going to go out. But if you stay there long enough till it goes up by itself, now you've created an independent source of light. And that's how we are supposed to view ourselves. We are supposed to be there, not only inspired when the Rebbe is around, not only inspired when there are good influences around us. We need to ourselves become the pillars of light. We need to become lighthouses in and of our own right, instead of merely being consumers like the moon that reflects the light of the sun. We're going to be the sons of our own. This is level 1. Let's talk about level 2. And I want to encourage you again to do this before davening. When you come to shul, take 3 minutes before you start davening, even if the minyan has already started. Put your talus and tefillin on. Get underneath your talus. Put it over your head. That's a signal to everybody that I'm currently not available. Right? Just go right over your head. Right? It's also very good because you don't see anything. Right? You're not in charge of building maintenance. You're not in charge of security. If you're in charge of security, you shouldn't be doing this. But if you're not in charge of security, then don't do it. Then get into your fortress. And when you do that, what should you be thinking about? You need to have spiritual food every day. You need to have a meal every day for your soul. You need to have what to think about. Take a chapter of Tanya. Take a piece of Torah that you found meaningful. and learn it over 10 times in the text. If you learn it over 10 times in the text, and if it's a YouTube video, by the way, that you find inspirational, then do it on YouTube. Watch the YouTube video over 10 times or 20 times, and then make it yours. So now you can replay it in your own mind. When you replay it in your own mind, it's a totally different experience. You had a question.
You answered my question.
Oh, good. Mazel tov. Fantastic. Good. So level 2, I just want to address what level 2 is. Level 2, so whilst level 1 is just merely unpacking the concepts, it's a mental review. You know, the power of thought is so powerful. You would think, whatever. When you focus your thought on something, it's a laser. It is a laser beam, and it pierces through metal. It even pierces through the hardest of all substances, the human heart. When you focus your thought, you begin to move the needle in your heart. You begin to start feeling. It's an amazing human encounter. Now, level 2 is, again, in the teachings of Reb Shlomo Chaim Kesselman, is to review it in your own words. So whilst level 1 would be mental review just of the concepts, still as a recipient, but you're just like reviewing it. Level 2 would be to actually come up with your own metaphors, similes, analogies, applications. For example, you're a nuclear physicist, and you learned something from the rabbi that you found inspirational. But because you're a nuclear physicist, you actually, or you're a doctor of the human body, or you're a psychiatrist, you're able to apply it in a way that is extraordinarily close to you. You can take the concept, right? For example, we'll learn about this idea of the founding tenet of Chassidic is that mind over matter. Mayach shalit alalev, the brain rules over the heart. This is a founding tenet of Chassidic. Human beings are created vertical because the brain is above the heart, not like animals where the brain is below the heart. And what goes on in your head affects the heart. So fine, that's an academic concept. But if you're a psychiatrist, psychologist, and you know about CBT, you know about cognitive behavioral therapy, you're like, whoa, okay. When you change your cognition, you actually change your behavior. You actually change it all through CBT. It suddenly becomes something which you've studied and you know very, very well, and you're bridging a gap. You're making a bridge between Torah, spirituality, and between your own personal research and analysis, and you're able to make that bridge. This is level 2 meditation. Level 2 meditation is, for example, when you're, let me give another quick example. An example I like to use is that Chassidus teaches us that the struggle won't destroy you, it will build you. We just learned that, right, in the Mayim. We just learned that the waters are not gonna drown you, they're actually gonna pick you up. So now you're a zoologist, and you say, well, so there's the butterfly coming out of the what's called chrysalis. My kids told me it's not called a cocoon, it's called a chrysalis. I don't know why, but I'm gonna go with my kids. All right. So, but I went to the same school as you. We also learned it was a cocoon. So, so the butterfly coming out of the chrysalis is struggling to break free. It's not used to having wings, so it's struggling to break free from the chrysalis. So what does it do? It's sort of like it's like sweating bullets to get out of there. And what do? You want to open it up, take a little pocket knife and cut it open, let it out. What happens if you let it out? It's going to drop to the floor. It's going to die from starvation, because the act of breaking free from the chrysalis is going to force the blood into the appendages that it doesn't even know that it has on its back, because it still thinks it's a worm. And it's going to flow blood into the wings, so that when it comes out, it's going to drop out of there. It's going to start flying. But if you just open it up without any toil, without any struggle, it's going to fall to the floor. It's not going to know how to fly. It won't be able to eat. It will die from starvation. So what you've done now is that you've taken the discourse, the teaching, the chapter of Tanya, chapter 28 of Tanya, which I just taught, and you've now put it into your own analogy. And now you can go outside on your next trip, and you can daven with your talis and tefillin in nature, surrounded by trees and butterflies. And what you'll do is that you'll notice the meditation is around you. So this is level 2 meditation, which is what I call approaching das. Bina Bina is comprehension. Chokhmah, Bina, Das. Idea, understanding, and feeling, right? So Bina is the middle level, right? It's just Bina. You're reviewing the idea. It's level 1. But Das is when you're starting to feel it in your heart, when you're making it yours, when you're moving from objective to subjective. Subjective is when you make it personal. So we've got a lot to talk about, folks, about these 5 levels of meditation. I deliberately am slowing it down. I want to take this slowly because I want you to be able to feel comfortable with the various levels of meditation. I'm actually going to post onto our Shul WhatsApp group the video that we showed this past Friday morning, the video of the Rebbe, which speaks all about the importance of meditating before davening. And the Rebbe somebody asked the Rebbe, should I meditate before davening, before prayer, on the words of the discourse, or should I do it in my own words? And the Rebbe effectively says both, because this is level 1 and level 2. We still have levels 3, 4, and 5 coming up, but for the meantime, I'm going to post this video onto the community WhatsApp group. We'll take it from there. And thank you to Sean Snow of All City Permits for being today's sponsor. Thank you very much.